What's up, YouTube? This is Victor on the Let Me Explain show, and today I would like to talk about Burdock Root in more detail. That's to say, I really want to dive into what it is, what it does, and where it comes from. So we're going to look a little bit at the history of it, but mostly at the chemical composition of it, and get around the jargon of things like phytochemicals. What are they? Phytonutrients, nutrients. What are we talking about? So let's get right into it. Burdock root. So, firstly, I've been taking burdock root for about a year now, and the results are just astronomical. Why I started taking it is because I was looking for something with a high iron composition because I was diagnosed as anemic and I would get fatigued, when you feel tired and you just lack energy basically. So after starting to take burdock root, my energy levels have basically shot through the roof. And briefly, how I take it is I grind it up, then I have it as a tea in my flask. So I carry my flask around all day, and I've got a mixture of herbs which I won't go into right now, but burdock root is one of them. So it's important to take a lot of water when you take herbs because it helps the body absorb them better. Right. So let's get into it. First, let's start with what phytochemicals are, and from there we can then diverge and look at other things. So basically, phyto comes from the Greek word which means plant, and phytochemicals can only be found in plants. Now, you'll be surprised to know that 40% of the medications on the market today are actually plant based and use a great deal of the phytochemicals within plants. Now, why is this important? This is important because plants develop phytochemicals so that they can fight radical elements, high exposure to ultraviolet rays, and so on and so on. So it's very important to have a diet that's high in phytochemicals. But burdock root is one of the herbs I'm looking at today. So let's look at it. So the first thing I want to do is take a look at the history of burdock root, basically what it is and what it's been described as throughout time. So did you know that some can be eaten like a food? So it's not necessarily just a herb. Some people take it as a tea, like I described, and it's effective for curing things like acne, eczema, psoriasis, and it also inspired Velcro. Of course, we're not going to eat Velcro, but it's interesting to know that the herb, the plant, inspired Velcro. Now it's a diuretic or what they call a water pill, and what that does is it purifies the blood by flushing out toxins out of the body. Root was also enlisted to alleviate constipation, ease childbirth, break up kidney and bladder stones, and promoting sweat, remedy stomach and intestinal disorders, and control arthritis and gout pains. Now, that's already a lot to talk about when you're talking about one herb, right? So, going back to it, what's the mineral composition of burdock? So we have calcium. In addition to its widely known role in bone structure, calcium is used to help the nerve function and control muscles. So 41 milligrams of calcium can be found in every 100 grams of burdock root. That's 4% of the total daily recommended calcium intake. Then we move on to my favorite, which is the iron. Now, when it comes to iron, all the tissues of the body need a near constant supply of oxygen to maintain life. The hemoglobin is the iron containing protein in your blood, which help to deliver the oxygen. In 100 grams of burdock root, you can find zero point 0.8 milligrams of iron. It provides so that's about 4% of your daily recommended intake. Now, with this much already, you will notice a significant boost in your energy levels. And if you've got more energy, you're more upbeat. So that's iron. So we've got two so far. Then comes potassium. Along with sodium, calcium, magnesium, and chloride, potassium is an electrolyte, meaning that it helps to conduct electrical charges in the human body. In 100 grams of burdock, you can find 308 milligrams of potassium. It provides 7% of the daily recommended adult average intake. And then we go on to magnesium. About 50% of a person's magnesium is stored in the bone, and as such, it is a key role in bone metabolism. Even a mild ongoing magnesium deficiency can lead to a significant amount of bone loss. 100 grams of burdock root contains 38 milligrams of magnesium. That's 10% of the daily recommended value for an adult. Then we'll move on to phosphorus. In addition, inadequate intake of phosphorus results in hyperphosphatemia, the symptoms of which include anorexia, anemia, muscle weakness, bone pain, confusion, and possibly death. Phosphorus is so widespread in the food supply that dietary phosphorus deficiency is extremely rare. Grams of burdock contains 51 milligrams of phosphorus. So phosphorus is not a big deal. It's available in a lot of other foods, so we'll skip that one. And then we move on to zinc. Immunity, reproduction, skin health, and vision are just some of the areas that can be affected by zinc deficiency. 0.33 milligrams of zinc can be found in every 100 grams of burdock root. That's 2% of the daily recommended intake. Then we move on to copper. In the food we commonly eat, there are only very small amounts of copper. As such, as any dietary mineral, the amount of copper you eat is directly related to the amounts of minimally processed plant foods you get every day. In 100 grams of burdock root, you can find 0.07 milligrams of copper. It provides 4% of the daily recommended value for an adult. Then we move on to manganese. Manganese is important for everyday skin health. So if you've noticed, some people have got really glowy skin and you wonder why. I mean, they take in a lot of water, they exercise, and they have a healthy diet. So manganese does provide so this is a breakdown of how it works. This mineral is a required cofactor for an enzyme called prolidase, which is in turn necessary to make collagen as a structural component of skin. 100 grams of burdock root contains 0.23 grams of manganese. That's the 12% of the daily recommended value for adults. Right, so we get into the end of the list now. Selenium. Selenium containing enzymes are involved in recycling of vitamin C from its spent form back to its active one, allowing for greater antioxidant protection. 100 grams of burdock root contains 0.7 micrograms of selenium. That's 1% of the daily recommended value for an adult. All right, so now that we've gone through the chemical composition of burdock, what does this all mean? What does this all do? So please take this with a grain of salt. Do your own research. Consult your doctor about this before you take burdock to see if it's a good fit for you. I think it will be, but I'm not a physician. I'm not a herbalist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing this from my own research and my own experience with burdock. So please bear that in mind as you go forward with the following cases that is known to work on. So a combat for cancer. That's a big one. A combat for cancer. European a combat for cancer. European physicians from the Middle Ages and later used burdock to treat cancerous tumors, as well as skin conditions, venereal disease, and bladder and kidney problems. Many herbalists today say burdock root can stop cancer cells from metastasizing, making it potentially a natural cancer treatment. Now, once again, take this with a grain of salt. Consult your doctor about this. I'm just giving you facts from my research. In fact, animal studies of mammary, colon, and pancreatic cancer have shown promise for Burdock's ability to fight cancer. Study found that octogenin was a cancer-specific phytochemical. Now we go back to phytochemicals that killed human lung cancer cells. Human lung cancer cells are human stomach cancer cells. So studies like this are proving that what many have believed for years, that burdock root is a seriously effective natural cancer fighter. Now, I just want to emphasize that take this cancer part with a grain of salt. If you're a cancer patient, speak to your doctor about burdock root before you take it, because I don't recommend you do this on your own if you're in a serious health condition. I'm just giving you the herbal alternatives that are out there. Now let's move on to the second benefit. So arthritis. Burdock root is known for its powerful anti-inflammatory abilities, even helping to soothe arthritis. That's a good one. Great. So, and we move on to the next. Helps to treat an enlarged spleen. If you suffer from an enlarged spleen, burdock root can help. The spleen is a vital guardian organ that we rely on to keep the body free from infections, viruses, and all kinds of dangerous pathogens. An enlarged spleen is a clear warning sign that the immune system is fighting hard to remove threats from the body, but failing to do so because it can't keep up with high demand. Fighting tonsillitis. Burdock root can help get rid of painful tonsillitis. Acute tonsillitis is a type of inflammatory virus that causes tissues within the tonsils to become infected with harmful bacteria. Burdock root is helpful to tonsillitis because it increases wound healing, decreases inflammation, and helps to relieve coughs, sore throats, and pain. So that's about it. That I wanted to share on burdock root, just to dive into what it is chemically, what it is in terms of its history, how it's looked at from the medical field, and what it has done for me personally. So what I do is I buy it in bulk online. I buy from Amazon, and why I buy from there is because I want a trusted source that I can go back to in case things go wrong. Now you might wonder why I'm saying if in case things go wrong. There are no known side effects that I've had personally using burdock, but the tricky part is that it's in the same plant family as the nightshade, which is deadly. And if a picker does not know the difference between burdock root and the nightshade, then you might get burdock root mixed in with nightshade, which could result in a terrible condition. So be aware where you buy your burdock from. Make sure it's well-established herbalist, or you're buying it. If you're buying it online, it's a reputed outlet like Amazon, like I mentioned. I know it's big corporations, but that's where I get it from. And also the last part I'd like to mention is most people complain that the farmer's market is expensive. Now, statistics show that Americans throw away a third of the food they buy, if not more. Now, if we are to rethink that whole argument, if you're going to throw away a third of the food you buy, the cheap food you buy from the supermarkets, wouldn't you rather buy what you need from the farmer's market and throw away nothing? So at the end of the day, it's a matter of rethinking how we consume, and how we consume from actually buying from the commerce right through to the actual physical consumption of the food. So buying from the farmers market, you can speak to the farmers who can ensure that you're getting the absolute healthiest food you can get without having to worry about GMOs or pesticides used on the crop. So that's about it on burdock root. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the description button below, and I will get back to you with whatever I can. And once again, I'm not a herbalist, doctor, or or medical practitioner of any kind. I'm just a YouTuber sharing his experience on my journey with herbs. So I hope you have a wonderful day. And if it's nighttime, I hope you have a great night, and stay well, stay healthy, and get on those herbs. Victor on the Let Me Explain show.